Welcome to another amazing episode of the Jane Warren podcast. I have a guest, another incredible, inspiring female that I met through Women Thrive. Her name is Clare Garner, and today we are going to be having a really great chat together. We're going to talk about stepping into your light. We're going to talk about living your best life. We're going to talk about realizing your dreams. But let's be real, it's not always easy. So we're going to touch exactly on why that's the case. So Clare, thank you for joining me.
Oh, you're most welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
And as you hear from Clare's voice, she's joining us from the UK. So I've had guests from Australia. We've had guests from the US. We've guests across the UK. So this is really exciting. I'm so grateful that you're here. So Clare, you have an amazing story. I'd love for you to share a little bit about who you are, the type of coach that you are, and a little bit about your past, because it is most certainly very different from the life I've lived.
Okay, I'll try and condense it. I'll condense it into like a couple sentences. Okay, so I'm a motivational speaker. I am a thought leader for female empowerment, and my coaching is very much the bridge between spirituality and success. So it's the 3D and the 5D, the ambition and the awakening. It's like integrating both planes, if you like, both worlds, and really utilizing the tools and the belief systems that we have in all aspects and combining all of that to really fulfill what we're here to do. In regards to my story, I was like, where do I start? So I guess in a nutshell, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Right? I've always been a visionary. I've always known that I was here to create big things, but life kind of threw me some curveballs, and I ended up in a 15-year abusive relationship from the age of 18. So that was obviously most of my adult life. I'm 37 now. And during that time, I did become an entrepreneur. I did start my own corporate business, but my partner who I was with was also a compulsive gambler. So you can imagine what my money story was like. I lived in fear like every day. So I would kind of have two identities. I would be going to work, in my suit and my heels and smashing these high level meetings, and then coming home and not being able to open my front door, so it was like two very different identities that I was living in. Long story short, had my spiritual awakening, had my tower moment. Everything came crashing down when I get my years mixed up now. I'm getting older, but I was about 33, I think, when it all happened. And then within the next 18 months, my life 360'd. That's when things started to shift. I started to trust that my wings would support me. I started to trust that I would be able to achieve my dreams. I built 2 businesses to multiple 6 figures. I started finding who I was, like, really, like who was the real me outside of all this crap that I had been through. And now I'm very much living a life that, 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, just was incomprehensible. So it's been a roller coaster, to say the least.
What a story. I mean, you condensed that and summarized that.
I'm like, how can I?
Very good. Very good. So, wow. And you say, if you 10 years ago, looking forward, would have never imagined this. And for anyone listening right now, if this, touches on you and you really resonate with maybe being in this type of situation before, maybe you're in a situation right now, Clare's living proof that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. So going back to, this transitional moment for you, when you started to reconnect with yourself, when you started to, I guess, step into who you are, how did you start to do that?
Well, obviously leaving that whole kind of relationship was the catalyst for me, right? And it gave me space to breathe and to start thinking of myself. Because, when you're in that kind of situation, you're brainwashed, you don't even know who you are. So I was thrown, really, I had no choice, I was like, it was me and my kids, and it was like, oh shit, I got to figure this out now. And so it was kind of like, I had no choice. It was sink or swim. And it was, I'm really trying to condense all of this, but it was really synchronicity. So I had just had my second child, and she was like in baby groups and stuff at the time. and my eldest was 10. So I had a big gap between motherhood. And I was in the baby groups, and I was there with like my little headset on because I was the corporate businesswoman, and that was the life that I lived as like my ulterior persona, right? And I remember going into a baby group one time, and there was this girl there, and she had like blonde plaits beside her. Not the kind of person that I would normally associate with me. I was just like, we were chalk and cheese. It was just not like who I would see as my tribe. And something made me start talking to her. And I was like, do you want to swap numbers? I had like no mum friends. I was like, we should be friends. Long story short, she was literally like my savior. Like, we're best friends now. And we both went through all of our stories at the same time. Like, she was in an abusive relationship, we both left at the same time, we spent a whole year like healing together and growing together and finding ourselves together. And it was just, back to your question, I think it's really looking for the synchronicities, looking for the signs that the universe is putting in front of you and opening up to them, seeing them for the first time. It's like they're always in front of you, but usually you've just got your blinkers on. You're not even paying attention. You're kind of your head down in the hustle, the grind culture, and you're not even seeing all of the stuff happening around you. And I think for me, it was putting myself in a different position, putting myself out there, something I wouldn't have done before, which was just speaking to one person that I normally wouldn't have done. And that really changed my life, I have to say. She was the catalyst for me getting into my spirituality and finding my true self.
That really gave me goosebumps. And I actually said to my friend today, my best friend Candace, I mentioned her a lot in my podcast. I mentioned to her today that it's amazing who we come across in our life. And there's like, it's not a coincidence. Like, you could be sitting in a hospital. She had to go to the hospital. She was sitting in the hospital, waiting in the waiting room, and she told me, I cannot wait to tell you about these people I met. And I actually cannot wait to hear the stories, because you never know who's going to be there and why they're there for you. So that's incredible that, you thought, okay. And it's even harder as an adult, I think, to ask someone to be your friend. I feel like we're in elementary school again. Will you be my friend? Can I give you my number? Can I get your number?
That whole fear of rejection, right? You're like, oh my God, what if they say no more?
No, exactly. So on your journey, as you started to really reconnect with yourself, how did you start to get yourself to really feel better and start to see that you're like, okay, obviously, and like you said as well, a lot of us may have multiple personas, and it's natural. And it's, to me as a coach, it's not surprising to hear that you had one that you brought to work and showed up at work, and you had one that you're almost forced into at home. But of course, at work, we all do on the outside, social media, everything. We want to portray a certain image of ourselves. So how do you start to even drop those personas? And I suppose, obviously, I know getting out of that relationship, rediscovering who you are, helped you do that. But how did, I guess, the question here, how did you merge both, like come back to who you are now?
It is the onion. It's like, it's literally the peeling, the layer and the layer and the layer, and the limiting belief and the why am I doing this because I don't even like this, or why am I arguing this point when I actually don't even really believe it, and it's I think for me, I mean, there were several things, but to kind of pinpoint them, it would be, I mean, going into the woo-woo side of things, I really delved into spirituality. So, and it was not a world that I was in before, right? I was very much, I'm a Virgo. So I am very much like, I like facts, I like science, I like to know, like, everything. And I like to understand it on a very 3D level. So I really dove into this world, and it grabbed me, right? It was like, oh, I like this, I like these kind of, I like these conversations, and I like, thinking about there being a bigger energy around us, and, learning about the quantum field and understanding synchronicities and really understanding myself. I got into human design and so many things. Coaching was a massive catalyst for me. I went into high level coaching, a 9-month container, which I spent like tens of thousands of pounds on. And it changed my life. Like, it absolutely changed my life, like unbelievably, in ways that, probably took off years of my personal growth if I had tried to do that on my own. So it's really hard to pinpoint into one thing, but I think it's being open. It's being open to new things that previously you've said no to. So, people would talk about spirituality before, and I would always just brush it off. I was like, no, it's not for me. It's not for me. And stupid things, like people would say, why don't you read this book? I'm not a reader. I don't read. Who doesn't read? Mm-hmm. But, it's like, it's these identities, it's these beliefs that we attach ourselves to without ever even questioning where they came from in the first place. And I remember, like, I can't remember the exact catalyst for it, but I remember the moment that I decided I was going to start reading, and I kind of almost kicked myself. I was like, why have you been stopping yourself doing this? Because you literally tell everyone you meet you're not a reader. And
you're like, I'm good at this.
It's
in
crazy,
the end, when you start
right?
reading, you're like, I know the feeling of when maybe though, I think sometimes what happens is we read so much through school and university, and then you take a hiatus. And I feel there's but I think people that are quote unquote, I've categorized myself as a not so often reader, maybe in my past as well.
I mean, I'm a listener, to be honest. But...
yeah, same. I'm all same. Thank you everyone for listening to this right now. But I'm the exact same. I love audiobooks.
Yeah.
But I would go through phases too of reading. But I think I had this thought of like, well, I'm not reading a book a month, so I guess I'm not a reader, because I think we always think about the extreme case in these situations. But so I'd love you as well to expand a little bit more on spirituality. So similar to you, in the last couple years, so we're not far off, I'm 38. In the last couple years, I started working with a coach that is a peak performance coach, and she was all on like bringing spirituality to the surface. So I'm very, very aware of what that is, but in your mind and for the listeners, this could be something new. And, it's funny because you kind of said all the woo, and, sometimes people will hear that and might roll their eyes. Spirituality is not for me. And then, but I mean, there's so many different levels to it. I mean, I'm always thinking, what if it did work out better than you could ever imagine? Like, that's probably one of the best shifts I ever made in my own mindset. But to you, so let's unpack spirituality in the simplest of ways. So let's just say someone here is listening and they're like, wow, okay, yeah, I don't quite have the life I want right now. I'm not so happy. I'm not really seeing any of my dreams happen. Maybe I need to take a different approach.
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you, the spirituality?
So spirituality for me is very individual, and I'm not as woo-woo as a lot of people are. I'm not into a lot of stuff, but I'm into other stuff. So what I don't like about the spiritual world, if we can kind of canvas it for a minute, is there's a stigma that puts a lot of shame around entrepreneurs, especially, of if you say that you're spiritual, you can't be successful. If you say that you're spiritual, you can't charge money for your services. If you say you're spiritual, then you shouldn't be wanting to have 3D things, because that's not, that's kind of conforming to the 3D material world. And I like to kind of say, well, am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
Oh yeah. I say fuck. I say shit. Sure. Don't worry.
I like to say fuck that.
You said shit before, and I was like, okay, good. She's like, let it out.
I'm never sure.
You absolutely can. Don't worry.
Okay. So when I got into spirituality, I had this huge thing of I wanted to be in this world, but I felt judged. I felt shamed. And I felt like they didn't want me because I was ambitious, because I had big goals, because I like material things, right? I'm not ashamed to say that. I think we're in this 3D world to experience it. And so what happened is I literally did that. I was like, fuck this shit. I am forging my own path. I get to decide if I'm spiritual or not because someone tells me what I can or I can't do. So to me, coming back to your question, is spirituality is an inside job. You don't need to justify it to anyone. You don't need to change for anyone. You don't need to conform to anything. Okay. All spirituality is, in my opinion, is trusting in something bigger than yourself. That's it. You can call that whatever the hell you want, whether it's God, the universe, the divine, the quantum field, all sorts of names for it. I like to go with the universe and also the quantum field. I kind of feel that I'm not even sure if there's a difference, but I like both of them. And I kind of switch between those two things. But the ultimate thing is that you're just trusting that there's more than what meets the eye, right? And I think there's so much science to it now. If you look at people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, if you look at people who really understand the science behind this, it's kind of to a point to me where it's like, how do you argue it? How do you argue that there's so much scientific evidence that there is energy all around us and it's moving and it's changing, and everything that exists started from a thought. So it's how do you I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, I don't know how you argue against it personally. So I'm just yeah, but I don't conform to what a lot of people say is spirituality, because I like to think that we are in this world for a reason, to experience everything that this life gives us, to experience material things, to experience all of our feelings, and to live our best life. Because when we live our best life, when we follow our dreams, which I believe are your soul's whisper, right? That's what your soul wants you to do, to follow your dreams. You've just got to fight the fear to do it. But when you do that, you vibrate at your highest frequency. And when you're vibrating at your highest frequency, that creates a ripple effect around you, right? And that's ultimately how we raise the vibration of the planet, by living your best life, because then you raise the people around you up, as well as obviously your clients, your audience, your customers, all of the people that you serve, but the people even around you, your friends, your family, your neighborhood, your community, everyone that you come into contact with gets some of that energy, and that impacts them,
100%. And I love that perspective of just seeing something or believing there's something better for you. Like, that's the simplest way. If you can, I should hope everyone that's listening can, if you don't have this point of view or this type of mindset, reflect on it and start thinking about, why is it that you don't feel there's something better for you? If you want better, if you want it, then it's there, it's available for you. And like, that's something that's really, really important. And I think that's something that really shifted for me, knowing that there was something more, and then trusting that that's the hardest part, not focusing on the how, and trusting that it's going to present itself in some way, right? I'm like, okay, I know I want this. But I think, as you're mentioning, with getting yourself on a frequency. So again, some of these things, you might be hearing this and you're like, what the heck are they talking about? But as you're saying that, I was thinking about an example of, when you walk in a room with your friends, or you walk into a room, or you have a conversation with someone, and they just give you such a good vibe. They give you such a good feeling. So for anyone listening, we've all had this happen, and you've met someone, could be in a coffee shop, could be anywhere. And you have this short, it could be a 1 minute, 30-second encounter. It could be an hour encounter. And you feel, after you leave that, you feel something flowing through your body. You feel a sense of they maybe connected with you in like an empathetic way. You feel compassion, you feel love, you feel something. That's energy. Like that's energy. And honestly, I mean, when Claire and I hopped on here before we started recording, I was like, girl, your energy, like we met through a community we're both in, and we don't know each other in depth. And we had a quick little chat before we got started, and I had to tell her, like, anytime I've seen her speak on some of the showcases we've had, I can't get enough. It's like your energy. I feel it through the screen. I love energy. And people are always saying about my energy because I'm such high energy and I try to be high vibes. But here's the thing is the more you can get yourself feeling good, because when good things happen, like Claire's saying, the more you can get yourself towards living your best life, doing things that you love to do, reconnecting with your passions, your desires, that is going to make you feel good. When you feel good, as I've said before on this podcast, you take better actions and you're going to start attracting more of that to you. Like you said, there's so much science behind all of this, law of attraction, because we can often see it more. We probably dwell on it more when it's not good. It's a shit storm. We're living in a pile of shit and it sucks. And our life is like, why is this happening to me? I don't know. Like, I don't like where I'm at. And all we do is sit in that low energy. We sit in that negativity. And we're here to tell you right now, like, you've got a choice to change it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because the more that you're in that low energy, the more that's what you attract to you, you know? And so I've heard people say that, like, okay, so then why do bad things happen to good people, right? So they associate low energy with being a bad person, or I don't personally believe in good or bad, but let's just go with this example. And it's like, no, but that's not what we're saying. You know, everyone fluctuates in their energy, no matter who you are. Okay, no matter what is in your heart, you're going to have high vibration days, you're going to have low vibration days. And that's normal, right? That's the human experience, you know, welcome to Earth. But it's about your baseline. Where is your baseline? This is not to say you can't have a shit day where you just want to sit and watch Netflix and just zone out. We all do that, you know, we all do that. And that's okay. But it's your baseline. If that is happening more than your higher days, then that's where you're an imbalance, and that's where you're going to attract more of a low vibration to you, because that's the energy that you're in on the majority of the time, right? And that's what the universe is responding to. It's the majority. It's the, you know, what is the overall, you know, what's the word? Is it median frequency that they're putting out? Because that's what I'm going to give them back. That's what they are telling me that they want. That is the level that they are playing at. This is like I'm trying to think of really good analogies here and they're not coming.
Well, one that
this is like the level of tennis you're playing, right? You're in this par, but you need to be up here if you want to play with the big boys. If you want to win that cup, then you've got to up your game. You've got to grow. You've got to learn. You've got to see the lessons. You know, where are you getting serves that you're missing? Why did you miss it? Were you looking at the ball? Were you focusing on the audience, maybe making a comment about you? You know, it's all about where your perception is, what you're focusing on, and where you're placing your focus. If you're focusing on, okay, I want good things in my life. What do I have now? Where can I feel abundant now? So I'm not focusing on scarcity. I'm not focusing on lack. I'm not focusing on the bad things. It's not to say they're not happening, but you have a choice of where you focus, and whatever you focus on is what you will get more back of. Yeah. So it's just about, being intentional with your mind, right? It's a very important tool.
Oh, 100%. You're now a tennis coach, so I think that was really
I don't know where that came from. I don't even know about tennis.
Anyone watching the video, you'll see some hand motions and like as if you're playing the game, which is amazing. No, but this is facts. This is so true. And why I have this podcast is because I'm trying to help everyone listening understand the power of the mind. And let's use money. You're great. You know, this is something you've spoken about too, and things I've listened to. It's like when we think about money, it is so easy when we don't have enough to dwell on our debt. I've been there. I've been in very low positions. I've been crying at the end of the month, stressing out, all these things. I've been there. And in those moments, I had to remind myself, I'm like, if I keep focusing on what I don't have and continuously stress, like internally agonize over the debt that I have or money that's not coming in, the bills that I have, yeah, I'm literally going to continue on that flow of energy and I'm going to attract that. And what I would do is I'm like, okay, I need to, and I mean, as a coach, I know the work, but it's like, you have to apply it. So I would think, where can I feel, like you said, where can I feel abundant? And I would go outside, and it's like the simplest thing I always say to my clients, if you don't know, if you can't find a way to feel abundant in your space, maybe you're really unhappy in your space, and that's fine. Go outside. Yeah. There is an abundance of trees, of leaves, of flowers, of water. And I would like walk around, and I'd walk down by the waterfront here in Toronto, Canada. And I would be like, it is beautiful. I'd be like, look at all these things. I'm like, do you know how many blades of grass there are?
Yeah. No, we do exactly the same. We live by this beautiful little like wood area with like a little stream walking through, and not so much now, it's getting a bit colder, but in the summer, like at least once a week, me and my girls would walk through and we would just be like, oh my God, there's so much abundance of, flowers, of trees, of wildlife. But one time there were butterflies literally everywhere. And we were like, oh my gosh, look at the abundance of butterflies. Because the more that you focus on that, the universe hears you. And it's like, oh, I see. You want abundance, do you? Like that's where you're focusing. Here you go. And it's just, you can feel it, right? You can feel your own energy shift when you switch. When you just stop focusing on the bad, stop focusing on the things you're worried about, and focus on what already exists in your life that is positive, that is abundant, that is, good. And that's when you will raise your vibration. You'll start to shift, and then it will just come easier, right? It will be more natural. It will be more flowy for you.
100%. And I want to touch on again what you had said before. We're not saying that these stressful things aren't warranted to feel some type of stress over, because you're not going to feel great all the time when you're really unhappy in your circumstance. But what we are saying is that you have an opportunity right now, as you're listening to this, you have an opportunity to reflect afterwards, to actually say, look around you and think, okay, there is good in my life, and look at that from within. Think about your ability to even just move around, all these things that you can do every day without even a thought, right? Yeah. Like your body, how powerful our bodies are, like feeling, okay, that's amazing, I can do that, or just even the simplest things that you might have around you. Where can you find this little bit of joy? And it's just about, for a moment, just a moment, break the cycle, right? Yeah, break that 100%. Cycle of going down that terrible rabbit hole on how, look, we all have friends. Maybe you're this person listening, but we all know someone that, and I'm hypersensitive to it, that focuses on the lack, even when good things are happening. It's fucking blows my mind. And it's like, literally, I'm like, is this possible? Like, oh, someone just got a job, but they're making less money now. But they've been stressed about not having a job, but they have a job now. I have a job, but, and I'm like, you got a fucking job. Like, this is amazing. Like, let's celebrate. And then they're literally like, so this is what we mean is like, and think about too, just as you're talking, like when you're talking to people and someone even might give you a compliment. And
I'm just going to say that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Say it. Say you're part of it.
No, we're on the same wavelength, because I was just going to say, it's where you receive is all the same thing, right? So receiving is receiving. So if you start with compliments, I always teach my clients this, like start with something that is going to come. It's going to come, you know, everyone gets compliments, you know, whether it's about, you know, you're always going to get a compliment about something. And how many of us minimalize it? So we're like, you know, someone's like, oh, I love your hair today, and you're like, oh, thanks, I haven't washed it for a week. Or like, oh, I love your outfit, oh, thanks, you know, I picked it up for $5 in the sale. You know, it's like you minimalize everything. And you can't, you know, you have, if you want to receive abundance, then you have to be open to receive. You have to have an open heart. And that starts with receiving compliments about you, right? And it's just say thank you. Accept the compliment, because let alone anything else, like I like to think of it like this. If you struggle with this, if you struggle like, oh, it makes me sound, you know, kind of big-headed if I'm just like, thank you. Look at it like this. If someone gives you a gift and you take it, maybe you open it and you're like, I don't fucking want that. You give it back to them. Like, that's what you're doing. Like, if someone gives you a compliment, they're giving you a gift. They've thought the thing, right? They thought the thing that they say to you with a pure heart, with pure intentions. They're not saying it for the hell of it. They're saying it because they genuinely think it. And for you to minimalize it is basically saying, I don't fucking want your gift. Have it back. So, you know, try and think about it. Take yourself out of it and put yourself in the shoes of the person giving you the compliment. How will it make them feel if you just throw it back in their face or you just minimalize it? It's kind of like, well, you know, I don't want it. Thanks. So I always like that analogy, because I think it just puts a different spin on it, right? If people struggle with the kind of ego thing, it's like, well, don't even think about it like that.
Oh my gosh, like connecting that to a gift, that is brilliant, because it made me laugh so hard. And I'm like, yeah, because it's true. It's like, you're like, oh, I don't fucking, why the fuck do you give me this? Like, I don't even like this. And then you never say that when someone gives you something.
That, would you?
No, you would never do that. And I think that's like, actually, as we're saying about finding the good, like this is a very easy step that everyone listening, that you listening right now can start to take. Remember, we're trying to share with you today about, you know, we all have a past. We're all living in a certain reality right now. And we want you to be able to step more into your light, to find more joy in your life, to live your best life, to make your dreams a reality. And at the end of the day, if you want better things for yourself, which I hope you do, you need to start feeling better. And you can do that by simply focusing on some good that's happening for you, something, one thing. And if you can only think of one thing, then that's fine. Sometimes, you know what, too, you can ask a friend. You could like ask a friend what they really like about you or something. And that can, because sometimes it's hard. Maybe you're not able to come up with something. You can ask someone. I once asked my best friend about a quality that she really, like a quality that I have, like that she thinks is one of my strongest qualities. I was curious. And she said loyalty. And I was like, oh, I'm like, okay. And then she explained to me like why she felt that. And she sees me carry that out in my life. So she's like, you are a very loyal partner. You're a very loyal friend. Like you're the most loyal friend I know. Like all these things. I was like, this is really interesting. So it made me feel good. You know what I mean? To hear what she said. So this is like an easy way to do that. Okay. If there's anything you want to leave everyone with here before you share how to get in touch with you, is there anything you want to leave the audience with?
Gosh, do you know, sorry. I think, yeah, just to wrap up what we were saying there, if you want better in your life, you have to feel worthy of better. And if you don't truly feel worthy of having something better than what you have now, then the fact is you're never going to be able to live it, because you will self-sabotage over and over and over again. You have to work on your self-worth. You have to feel worthy of the life that you desire, because it's only when you feel worthy that you'll start listening to the things that we're saying, that you'll start implementing the actions, that you'll start hearing things in a different way. But you have to know that it is okay for you to want that. It doesn't take away from anyone else. There's enough abundance in the world to go around. There's more than enough, right? It's an infinite resource. But you are here for a reason, to live your best life. So don't let fear of failure or fear of rejection or fear of judgment or fear of what others might think rob you of your dreams. That's all I got.
That's such a no, that's amazing. No, I love it. That's amazing. And here's the thing, you might be listening to this and you're like, okay, do I feel worthy? And if you don't see a better life for yourself, then it's possible that you don't see it because you don't feel like you deserve it. And this is exactly why myself and Claire exist. We're here to help you, and we're here to help you work through some of these beliefs, because it's like, how the heck do I start feeling worthy? Well, we need to start working on it. And I can tell you, through myself, my own personal development, through working with coaches, it's just a game changer, because I knew that I was stressed. All the money issues I was having had to do with my mindset. I knew I've made tons of money in my past, in my previous career. I knew it was possible, but it was like making it in my business.
Yeah.
That's where I struggled, So really it's, this is why we're here. We're here to help you. So Claire, share with everyone where you show up and how they can get in touch with you, and if you're really promoting anything right now.
Yeah, sure. So I guess Instagram is where I'm most kind of prolific. So what's my handle? At Empowered Phoenix Rise. And on Facebook, you can connect with me, Clare Garner. I do my personal as well as the business page, which is Phoenix Rise. And then if you like a bit of silly, over on TikTok on the same handle, so at Empowered Phoenix Rise. What I'm promoting at the moment is I have an amazing free blueprint, which is a 7-step blueprint to unleashing your inner power. So if you're feeling like stuck, you're feeling burnt out, you're feeling like you don't know how to be this person that you truly want to be, this is going to be a great, just like a first step, like, okay, this is the shit that I need to look at right now. Get me in here.
Amazing. Well, I'll be sure to have all of your links in the show notes. So everyone listening, you can just check that out, click through, and have a read through that download. I'm going to take a look at it. That sounds amazing. So Claire, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been super fun.